What is up, Overwatch community? My name is Trypps, and welcome back to another episode of Watchpoint. Obviously, this week is going to be a huge one with BlizzCon just ending. That's why we skipped Thursday, because pretty much anything we talked about was just going to be guesstimations, but now we have some answers for you. Before we really get too far into it, obviously I want to welcome back again Yiska.
Hello.
And Volcha.
Hi.
So there was a lot announced. Obviously, a little bit too much for our hour to hour and a half podcast. And a lot of people have covered, obviously, Sombra, the new arcade mode, the new Oasis map, I'm pretty sure that's what it's called, and the other arcade, only map, the May-inspired one. But really what kind of focus we want to take on this one is the Overwatch League itself and what it could mean for the community, what it could mean for, obviously, the pro scene, for esports that Blizzard presents in general. So... what was the biggest thing that struck you when you guys watched both videos, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. What struck you as the most startling, I guess, the first thing?
I guess to me the most startling thing on the short was it the short one where they had the guy named Crusher, I think, or the fake guy, and how Doritos consumption it was, and how silly it was.
MLG.
Yeah, that kind of shocked me how a bit over the top they went with that. But as for the actual content of it, I think I'm gonna let Yiska kind of rant on this one and see how far he goes, and then I'll kind of add, and maybe we'll add to that because I feel like Yiska's gonna have a lot to say about this one.
Well, the thing I don't want to do is I don't want to go too far down the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Okay? Just section by section, try not to take a huge dump over it. In your opinion.
Well, to be honest, since then, I've kind of uncluttered. I tweeted quite furiously, and also obviously message you guys.
Yeah, it's
settled in. So I cleared up some uncertainties I had with people that were at BlizzCon, and the obvious first impression I got, also because I was basically in this channel where all the pro players hung out. And nobody knew anything about this beforehand from the player's side, right? I don't even think anyone was really, pretending to not know because they signed some crazy NDA. But, I think the way it turned out is the organization owners knew, but their players didn't. And that's quite interesting, right? The plans were sort of leaked beforehand, around October 20th. The things that were leaked, I guess we still don't know if they will become true. I think maybe not even Blizzard knows. And the biggest thing that stands out for me there is the draft, basically. So the question if all the teams that are currently assembled in the way they are will be able to stick together, or if they, will be scattered and organizations have to draft them, and it's all shuffled around, because that's basically my biggest upset, or the most upsetting thing for me was the idea that now that we have had Overwatch for basically a year, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Where we had this storyline laid out, and for many pro players, I actually have quite a good understanding of where they came from, how they assembled these teams, how they, got into their play style, how these, how their strength were expressed in their current lineups. And now I'm really only waiting for the next couple of tournaments, because this is where it, all culminates in basically the thing I most enjoy about esports is seeing it all come together, and then
if I can interject without you losing your train of thought, because sure. I know that we tend to do this a lot, is we get really hyped up about something, and there might be people who honestly have not heard about this. They, watch the Sombra stuff and all that exciting stuff. So for anyone concerned about esports, and obviously both of you guys jump in if I miss something or misquote it because I've been gone for the weekend I was at my own con, so I wasn't been able to pay attention exactly to it. But from what I've gathered, it is regional based teams now. So actually from a source, they're starting out with 10 teams, which is just, I don't know if that's just US teams or is that just nation or universal?
I don't know the exact numbers. Basically, it was, I think, 9 in North America. On the map, in the video, it was 9 in North America, 9 in South America, and 9 in Europe, and then a couple in Asia. I don't know how representative that is of the. Well, I think even only 6 in South America. So, if it was 10, obviously, and there have been some public tweets, which we can talk about, is quite obvious that if you have only one team for Korea, which will be the case probably, that there will be 10 teams wanting to have this one Korean spot, and they're not going to get it, obviously.
And that's where the video kind of explains a little bit, and obviously through comments and asking other people, is so they have their teams regional. Think of it like, I'm sorry, I don't know European sports very well, but I'm just gonna say American sports. It's, you have like the LA Lakers and you have the Detroit Pistons and whatever, like, specific teams for that specific main city. And even though like 90% of esports teams are in LA, everyone is going to have to bid, I'm guessing, for a contract or something like that to have the LATSM, LA team solo mid, basically. And they want to spread it out across the region. So Europe, obviously, and America, and I'm guessing the Asias. But it's a weird system because they also want you to be located in those areas. So this is going a little bit farther down before we get too far into it, is you're going to have to buy a team house or a team air arena or something in that area. And they also have a system where players on a ladder or on the ladder can work your way up to, I'm guessing they're just going to pull the top 500 probably and be in what they call a combine, where teams can recruit off of that pool of people for competitive teams. So the established teams right now, like, Cloud9 and yada, Rogue, yada, 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 they actually are probably going to have to bid for what city they want to be located in.
Well, it's probably even more complicated than that.
Yeah.
Because, and here I can almost say this with certainty, it's not going to be Cloud9 that's going to take a spot. It's going to be Cloud9 in collaboration with some bigger sports team. And this is where it gets absolutely crazy. The implications of this are absolutely nuts, not just for Blizzard, for Overwatch, but potentially for the entirety of esports. Mm-hmm. Okay. For instance, I sadly forgot, but lately Team Dignitas actually are now part of sports club.
We talked about that, yeah.
It's an American.
It was Manchester United.
No, I don't think it was an American organization. Pretty sure.
No, I remember. I made a graphic for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But I think that's the model that we will require. Now, here's the problem. If you think logically about it, at first I was like, okay, they're going to form these, teams, and it will be about location. It will be about one pro gaming organization, and it will be about one sports team, and they do it for Overwatch, and they come together. That's really not feasible if you think about it. So it's probably not going to be limited based on regions, but it's going to be not limited based on just Overwatch. It's very, very likely that this will change the entire industry. So these teams are going to sign up with these esports teams for all games. Now suddenly EG becomes, I don't know, or let's say, are the Charlotte Hornets actually in Charlotte? I don't know enough about
I don't know.
Americans. Okay, let's say this, right? Then they fuse, for instance, with Envious because they're now a Charlotte-based organization. Not that Charlotte's going to be a city, realistically, on the, you know, but, and then they don't just do it for Overwatch. It's quite likely, obviously not confirmed, but that is the only thing that realistically makes sense to me, if I think about it, that they start fusing together, also because, you know, if you know anything about how esports organizations, you know, finance themselves, is basically all sponsorship money, and lately it has been some venture capital. Now, esports teams, the majority, aren't yet making money.
No.
So what's the best thing to do for these owners right now? Maybe, you know, get in bed with one of these big sports leagues, use their marketing, use their merchandise and everything, you know, that just the brand value, and then fuse together and get some extra cash. And this, obviously, as I said, has the potential to just transform the entire esports ecosystem.
The thing that I was seeing that, at least, okay, on my end, I'm honestly, from what I read, and I could be also in the same boat where you were a little bit shell-shocked towards the negative side, I could be extremely excited towards the positive side, and then all the negativity kind of rises to the surface. But the thing that is actually really cool, and I was seeing a lot of people say the same thing, is, you know, I have a Cloud9 shirt, but the only reason I picked it is because, like, I like Mango, who plays Smash, and, you know, I was like, you know, Cloud9, I've known them from a couple other games, like AOE 2000 and Dota for a while, even though he's not on the team anymore. And so it's like, I just draw names out of a hat, like, oh, I'm a Cloud9 fan, you know, because they've performed well in early beta, and then now they're kind of lacking, and they dropped a roster. But, you know, having, like, my city, or at least my area, because it's not going to be every city, it's not going to be every state. Eventually, that's what they're trying to do, but having, like, an area so you can be like, I'm the X fan, you know, because it's my city or my area, is a lot better. So that is something that will drive people, and I've seen a lot of people say the same thing. Why do I watch X team? It's just, oh, it's cool, it's pro Overwatch, but why I don't latch onto a team. The other thing that they're doing is I'm guessing, trying to make it LCS oriented, so it's going to be like seasonal. So it's like, a lot of people are saying that they watch football. Football starts in late August, September, American football. And so you can watch the games every other day, or, you know, every week or whatever. Whereas some people don't have the time to sit and watch an entire tournament on the weekend. So watching, you know, a small time tourney, and then you earn points from that or something like that, towards the bigger goal. And it's in like an LCS format, which apparently Riot, which I don't pay too much attention to League of Legends, but they've had really good success with that format.
Yeah.
To me, the whole regional thing doesn't speak to me. Like, I don't really care to root for someone because they're in my town or whatever. That doesn't really speak to me. I usually pick teams that I like the players on, or the play style, or even just like their like philosophy. So this kind of runs counter to anything I've kind of gotten used to in esports. This is like kind of brand new because I've always felt completely free to like whoever I want, because like the internet is international, and like I like a team for what they are, and this is like really weird to me, and I can see the appeal for those like not initiated into the more esoteric arts of esports to find something to latch onto and want to root for. But to me, like, this means next to nothing, and it's kind of feels artificial to me.
Okay, I gotta go deep for this one because I actually completely agree with you. And the thing is, my experience is exactly the same. I also don't Like, I've never been a fan of a team that is in my local area. I just don't see any merit to it. I'm hardly even rooting for my own national team in big competitions. I was for the last World Cup because I genuinely like the playstyle we had. But all that aside, I think here's what's a shame, and I got to explain a little bit of a, I guess, let's say scientific, philosophical concept, which is that there's different types of civilizations, right? Mm-hmm. There's type 1 to type 3 type civilizations. We're currently type O, or 0.7. Type 1 civilizations are civilizations that are able to harvest all the resources that their planet would be able to, provide. Okay, it sounds crazy, but here's the cultural implication. Yeah. Type 1 civilizations don't just have, the technology to harvest this. They also have culture type 1. What this means is you have a global culture. For instance, English is a type 1 or becoming a type 1 civilization communication language, right? So now everyone in the world can talk. So now let's bring this back to esports. This is what esports could be, right? Esports is set up because of the internet, which is a type 1 technology, to be enjoyed by everyone. Now, what Vulture is saying, okay, this regional aspect is kind of a bummer to him. Okay, the counter argument would obviously be, yeah, well, you can just root not for your city. That's true. At the same time, let's see two universes. In the one universe, we're going to get the league we're currently getting. And in the other universe, we have an open circuit where teams are free to move agents how they want. There's no region locking. An American organization could play with 6 Korean players or whatever. The pre-market decides. What do you think, in which region do people get more interested in stuff that happens all around the globe? Is it the one that is region locked, or is it the one that has, all the freedom of it? I think it really is promoting a sort of regressive ideology in terms of what esports could be. And you also have to think of the future. And in that sense, I almost feel when I'm seeing Bobby Kotick and, some CEO some official of a big American sports club, I'm like, are these old men really deciding what our cultural, what our sport of our generation should look like? And just because they enjoyed going to the games with their parents, like in their local area, do nerds really want to go out to an arena around the corner? Like, is that really our culture? Or do we want to see diversity, really connect with people? I mean, we're fucking on a podcast. I'm sitting here at 1 a.m. talking to 2 Americans while I'm being, like, here in Germany. Like, I don't know. It's so hard and that was really the most disappointing thing, is that I felt like esports had such a great opportunity, or has such a great opportunity to be this, all-encompassing and, border surpassing quality where we all communicate. And Overwatch is also set up. The theme of Overwatch is that, the nations all come together, and now you segregate. Now you concede to this tribalism. Oh, we are here in this country. We're playing a little bit, it's almost like playing a little bit war. We are here in our little tribe. We're fighting against the other city, and I realize it's fun, and I'm sure it's a marvelous business decision from the get-go. Let's be real. That's a big league move to approach it like really in that regard and really think big, and you have to commend them for that. I just really don't like the philosophical approach behind it because of what it stands for, and I don't think it's appropriate for our generation. That's basically what I think.
It's going to be strange to seeing like a Korean and like a Swede on like a New York team, and have it be like we have that already in like professional sports, and it feels kind of weird as it is. Like professional sports kind of evolved back in the day from this tribalism thing where you kind of drafted from around the area because you didn't have access to like send someone on an airplane to go like across the country to go scout someone. So you really were made a team from a local area. Now, teams don't do that anymore. They're all assembled like Frankenstein's monster from all over the world. And this, I never really liked that. And then this approach going to esports, it makes it feel even more artificial because they're playing in cyberspace with at the speed of light, and they're not bound by geography so much. So I don't like it. I definitely echo your philosophical problems there, Yiska, and it bothers me quite a bit that this is something that esports says is probably going to be important to the fans, because I feel like I'm a fan, and I don't feel like that's important.
Yeah, it's also a difference in approach because the way we are thinking about it, it's not really about mindless fun and just being together as friends as much as it's an intellectual exercise, right? Yeah. Which games, honestly, are too. Almost at all times, you're at least thinking in some way. Like, if I'm watching a football game, often you're sitting there, stuffing something in your face, and just talking with your friends, sort of like having an excuse to be together and then watch the game. Obviously, some people really get into it. Then it's a different thing. But those people are probably also the same ones that would root for another team, who want to look at the excellency that is being displayed, who don't just like, rooting for the best team because they're the best, but because they actually, have some character that, or some, strategies you in some way intellectually enjoy. And that's, I don't know. I don't think that's very, that's being appealed to much in that sense. Because now, if it's region locked, and that's still in the question, like, obviously there is a possibility. The wording is super, muddy right now, but imagine if you really could only hire people for a specific organization from that specific country, or worse yet, from that very area. What's the point?
I think that very area is going to be that's not going to happen. I mean, let's say if Rogue buys out New York or something like that, it's not like they're going to recruit just from New York. They're going to move players out to New York. They're just going to have to live there.
But what if Blizzard says, 3 of your 6 players need to be American and possibly born in the New York area? What if they say that? We don't know, right?
That means that literally no team would do well except for like LA and Seattle.
Well, maybe they want to reassemble the scene, and that would really set back progress and set the game back strategically.
If that's what they were doing, they would strip down literally everything that esports has been doing, and they're basically going to like remake esports. If that's what Blizzard's going for, it's going to fail. It's going to crumble.
From all I've read, region lock is being considered, at least in some form.
I think that it's stupid that, are you saying region locked as far as like Americans can't verse Europeans unless on, some extreme like World Cup title fight, something like that?
Yeah, that's also, by the way, I think the system that's being suggested is not really like LCS, because LCS really leaves no room for third-party tournaments.
Yeah,
I think that's not that way. Right.
I don't think Blizzard cares about third-party tournaments. They just want to have their organization. And that's honestly what a couple people were also talking about, which might not happen, in my opinion, because people are like, well, what if like all the teams, they're just like, screw Blizzard. We're going to keep doing what we're doing, and Blizzard can have their own like semi-pro tournament. And the Overwatch League falls underneath the current tournament scene.
Here's the problem. There's way too much money to ignore.
Yeah, I know. The only thing that I honestly have to disagree is with the amount of people who go out to things like, if you're familiar with Smash, Xanadu is out in Massachusetts or New Jersey, that area. I mean, they have different conventions that people, Michigan has Big House. They have the Summit in, I'm pretty sure it's obviously LA. They have LA tournaments. They have Shine in Florida. God, Smash people are going to rip me apart. And a bunch of these national tournaments that people continuously travel to over and over and over again across the world. And so it's weird to me that why is everything centralized in LA? Because to be like, oh no, nerds are fine. They're just going to watch it on Twitch anyways. Screw that, dude. I just got back from a tournament on Saturday. People are so hyped. That is so fun to sit there and watch people pop off and play, fighting games. I watched a league tournament and watch people crowd around these people playing computer games. Like, I want to go out to a tournament, but I don't want to buy a $400 plane ticket to go out to LA or Seattle to see it. I want things in my area. And I get your, like separation, we should all be coming together as, a nation. I think you're stretching a little bit on the philosophical civilization type deal. But I mean, business wise, American sports, man. Like, it's not like we're like merging teams. Every city has a team and it's worked for years and years and years and years and years. I gotta say, in my opinion, I get honestly what you're going for, because we shouldn't be separating people too much. But goddamn, I would love to go to a tournament. I'd love to go to the Overwatch scene and talk to people and, meet other people who play Overwatch, things like that, talking with those people and actually go and, root for a team. It's weird. I don't like, I like obviously watching Twitch, but we need to get out of the house every once in a while.
I would be okay with this if it was completely not region locked in any way whatsoever. I would be happy because it would be completely additive and not subtracting in any way. It would just be like, in name only. Like the New York team is in name only. They can exist all over the world. They don't have to have a team house in New York. They can. It's just a name basically. And New Yorkers. But then
what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do if the New York, noobs want to face the European elephants? And what are you gonna do? Like, where? How are they gonna play each other?
They just play each other in some land in some spot that's the place to play games, I guess.
And they're just gonna make these hubs all over Europe and the United States, and it's gonna be like, there's a game tonight in the Pennsylvania arena for the New York and European teams.
I guess
the way that they set it up though is like
go
ahead.
How it's set up now is you'd have to like be flying all over the place like a real professional sports team. Like probably once a week. I would assume that's the sort of format they would want to go.
I don't know about once a week. I would say once a month for like a mini tournament.
Yeah. Well, they would. I see how this would go out is like they would do like qualifiers, semifinals, and semifinals as if like they'd be home and away team games, and then maybe quarters and finals would take place in some venue that's neutral. But
I know you can't really say this, but I completely agree with the flying people out and making new houses elsewhere, and the money aspect. Oh god, the money aspect of it is a little bit ridiculous, because the way that I read, and I could be misquoted, or these people don't know what they're talking about. The way that I read it though is that they, let's say like CLG, they buy out like a block of houses, and they have their Smash house, their League house, their Dota. I don't even know if CLG has a Dota house, but they have houses for each team, and so then all the management, like, they can come by and they'll be like, hey guys, the owner of CLG is coming by just to see how we're doing as a team. And they have coaches, they have nutritionists, they like real team shit. And they have like a psychologist, and all these people live together. And then to have like the Overwatch team, it would be like in Atlanta is the example they used. And so it's like they're stagnated and separated from the rest of the team, or rest of like the organization, just for Overwatch. That is going to be a huge problem.
Yeah, there'll be regions that have inherent advantages. So, like, the Chicago team probably isn't going to have that sort of infrastructure, while, like, the LA team is going to have, like...
Yeah, LA is going to be the number one hotspot.
Yeah, back rubs and hot lattes for, like, everything, so...
I mean, but I'm trying to before I know like I think I started this and I went off on a tangent, but I know you can't throw away that idea of it's expensive, you're going to run into so many other problems. But the idea of it, the idea of being like, hey, my brother and my buddies and stuff, you guys want to go out to the Cloud9 CLG game tonight? They're playing at the arena in, downtown. That specific idea sounds so cool. But
That
there's
is
so
cool.
much other stuff behind it.
That is cool, and I like that thought too. It would be neat. I mean, I'm a bit antisocial. I hate humans in general, so like going out is like something I don't enjoy. But I would
Yeah.
enjoy that, going out and be like, all right, let's see the local esports team in a big venue with other people and like scream and yell. That would be pretty cool if they represented my area. Whatever, but it would be a cool thing to do.
Yeah.
I
I mean,
just worry this is going to be really disruptive on teams. One thing I'm really worried about, this is probably my main concern, is it's a bit exploitative or has the danger of being exploitative for team members or players. I mean, so you're going to have to, if it is completely region locked, you're going to have to pick up and go somewhere. So like typically what can happen in an esport career is it's a kid in college and they're like in the middle of college and they kind of decide, do I stop college and continue my esports career or do I not, or do I try to do both? And that's like often a choice that's being made, and
Yeah.
sometimes players do both. This completely nullifies that. You can't do both. You're just going to have to choose to bank it all on your esports career by moving somewhere across the country for maybe just a season, maybe even half a season, and then what?
But isn't that, I mean, I'm completely ignorant once again. I keep prefacing, but isn't that the same thing as like major sports though? Aren't you like making that leap? Like if somebody drafted you into, I don't even
the
want to
diff-
say an organization,
the
but
difference is if you can make a lot of money in professional sports, except for maybe
but this is the first step.
well,
This is what Blizzard's trying to do.
unless you're making like six figures, it's dangerous because I mean, if you're
Yeah.
making six figures, you have a cushion. You're like, all right, I spent 1 year and I made six figures. I can afford to move back and be okay.
Prize
I
pool
mean,
money is getting up there, man.
in that regard, they also mentioned revenue share with teams and everything. Licenses. We're going to see a lot of advertising if they're going with the American sports situation. Maybe we are actually going to see Coca-Cola signs in the actual map or something
will.
like this, right? So, with all this in mind, I think the income that these players could have, and they also said that this is all going to be paid by Blizzard in some way. That is obviously that's part of the revenue share. I assume that's how it's phrased in a way, and I think it's going to be at least somewhat stable, and possibly even more stable than, for instance, League of Legends is currently, because the top guys are making mad cash.
Mhm.
But the challenger players or something that are probably practicing just as much to break into the LCS, they're not making anything at all,
No.
or not much at all. Not obviously they're making something. Even now with the venture capital coming in, they made a little bit too much, you could argue, but I don't know. I think from that regard, that is actually quite solid what I see. Like the revenue share is there. If the revenue share is well done, that's something we don't see in the LCS right now, and that's a big talking point for these organizations too, because Riot has really failed to capitalize on the interest of potential league sponsors, non-endemic sponsors, help the teams out. Now, if Blizzard does this well, right, then maybe this isn't a problem too much. Yeah, the problem I see. And if we're back again on the topic of, like, how are you going to do it? Is it going to be not a lot of play days? Are you going to, really strain the players by traveling a lot? Are you actually going to play online, coast to coast or something? That's certainly a possibility that every team gets their own arena and they play from home, and you go there and they play online in some way. I mean, the netcode is sort of the best in FPS we've ever seen in that regard.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know. It's hard to imagine. Like, it really comes down to time schedules, I guess. What is feasible in that regard? But if they actually need to fly every week, I would absolutely hate that, because the level of play would be incredibly low, and or in comparison. And then you have the possibility that teams that aren't currently in the. By the way, did you see how they called it? Overwatch League.
Yeah.
Have you thought about the abbreviation of that?
OWL.
OWL? Owl? Yeah. Great.
I didn't even think about that.
That has to be deliberate, right? Okay.
Yeah.
But I don't know, like, is it then possible for these, because of the strain, that these teams that aren't in the OWL, that they catch up?
This is how you're going
And
to refer to
also,
it from now on?
keep in mind, there's only going to be one Korean team, and OGN is going to continue, right? The OGN's league. Dude, like, if you are going to, like, if this is true, then we are again at a setup where the World Championship is decided not actually, for instance, in like it is in League of Legends right now, where many people argue, okay, the World Championship isn't actually the big tournament to win. It's the LCK, the Korean League. That's the most challenging league to win, right? So if and we kind of, Korea again blowing everyone out of the water at the World Cup. Obviously, the teams aren't quite there yet, but what's to say that this isn't happening? What if the highest level of play is in Korea? What if let's say 20 of the top 20 teams in the world, 10 are in Korea? Only one can compete in the OWL.
I get that, but I have to say that this is starting. This is not like it's going to be one Korean team forever. Obviously Koreans have a huge step up as far as their ability. And if you look at the numbers, it has to, unless I'm completely off base. But from what I've seen, especially in the MOBA scene, the Koreans are way ahead of everybody. But because Blizzard's an American, organization, they're starting off with this. Obviously, America gets the most of everything because that's just how it goes if it's an American organization. And then they're building and expanding and expanding and expanding. And they'll get to they'll have 10 Korean teams and they come through and wipe the floor with everybody like they eventually do. So, yeah, at first, maybe in the first couple of years, it's going to be shitty for the Koreans. But I think Blizzard's they're shooting for the moon here, man. They're going to reinvent esports.
Yeah.
There's I guess the plus side on the Korean angle is usually Koreans do, from my understanding, do well in games is because they have really good infrastructure for their teams and really good ways to train, and they're professional.
Their ideology is also extremely diligent.
They're professionals within professionals, I guess is the way to say it. And a lot of that comes down to the amount of resources that they have available from having such large viewership. Maybe this is kind of the American answer, Western answer with this amount of resources behind it. We can approach that sort of professionals level.
Possible, yeah.
Okay. Away from, I want to take a step away from, because there's something that we didn't cover at all. And we can come back to, the region locking and the teams and things like that. How do you feel about the combine? The work your way up the ladder, and the top ladder people, we're going to start recruiting to fill in the slots that sponsors haven't bought out. So if Cloud9 gets Chicago and, Counter CLG gets LA and Rogue gets New York, and then they're like, well, the Packers, the Green Bay Packers, they want to get into esports, but no team wants to buy them out, but they're gonna start recruiting. So they go to the combine and they start recruiting players from this. What do you think of that idea of pulling people from the ladder? Because a lot of people have said that it's not just about being a pub star or being top of the ladder. There's more that goes into just being, on a successful esports team.
I guess I'll start off by saying I have some concerns about it, but I'll get back to the concerns later. But for the most part, I like it quite a bit because a lot of what it takes to become a esport pro is like networking, kind of knowing who to play with and knowing where to be. And this is kind of like a shortcut around that. If you're a good player, you're just stat wise or number wise up there and visible and able to be drafted. So that's quite nice. And I think it's probably pretty healthy for the team and adds great competition. However, I have a feeling that there's going to be some problems. Like, right now, team and solo queue are grouped together for rating, and it's probably easier to go up in solo queue
Get carried.
per person. Yeah, and it's not very representative. I think there's going to be some problems there identifying what is actually considered good for like the roles, good for what's a team player, and good for just a fragger. I mean, there's just so many things that aren't quantified in this problem that should probably be addressed before this goes live, in my opinion. Because how do you get like that? How does like a Lucio, who's really solid, good, has good speed boosts, has good positioning, how does he get on the ladder solo? Like, how does he do that? He just plays well, and then like eventually he rises up and he just supports his team well. What does that mean if he's on a team? Like, how do those stats look differently? How does that raising look different if he's with buddies? That's kind of a concern.
Yeah. I don't know if they're going to have... I mean, they have to have a lot more, especially if they're developing this whole combine thing. They're going to have a lot more of a selection process than just being like, these are the top players because of, how many wins they got or something. They're going to have so many background stats and things like that, and interviews with these players and watching their VODs. And it's going to be like drafting. It's going to be like, not drafting, scouting. Like, you're going to have to go scout these players.
On the other hand, there's nothing stopping teams from doing this currently, and some do kind of do that. They go on to Master Overwatch and find like a good McCree and slot them in, and they work out. But there's nothing stopping teams from doing this right now. So I don't understand how this is going to be fundamentally different than what we have for teams right now.
Because Blizzard slapped their name on it, basically. I mean,
maybe there's some side resources available with it that nothing else can provide. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, can you just imagine what this will do to the atmosphere in solo queue or in rank queue anyway?
Yeah.
Like, that when you have a bunch of kids and the bell is ringing and everyone's like, I'm getting it. Now imagine that's the rank queue right now. Now the problem is all the kids know they are opening the door for John Cena, right? for the big prize, and everyone wants to get in there. Do you think this is going to be a nice sight? Do you think you will get out alive there?
No.
You will not, my friend, right? I don't know. It's going to increase in toxicity, and there will be ridiculous, ways where we are going to get, babied again, I guess, to push this down because it doesn't look well in PR. I almost predict that they are going to, have some systems implemented in that sense. In general, that's also one thing we can, and I think Vulture and I think the same about this. Expect the scene to be super PC. It's already happening.
Oh yeah,
right.
Yeah.
The BlizzCon cast was very PC in that sense.
Blizzard themselves are just, they are like strict as possible. I mean, this is going way off base, but Reckful from WoW, he was a huge Hearthstone streamer too. I think he was casting some tournament. I don't know exactly. Maybe it was BlizzCon, but he was casting for Hearthstone, and Unfortunately, a verb, I guess, or adjective is said a lot in the gaming community is, you got raped, or that guy just got raped. And obviously it's a huge outside the gaming culture is a huge, issue and not a good thing. But they develop different meanings in different, areas. And as soon as I don't think he's been asked to do anything Blizzard oriented ever since he said it once. And it was just like, not that that was okay, but that's an example of they will never work with him again because of one slip up. And it's things like that, like suit and tie, no swearing, no, shit talking people, how things like, Too Good sits there and shit talks players and things like that for the games that he used to cast, and just being him. Anyone in the scene is going to be watched by 1,000 eyes.
Right now, solo queue is pretty damn toxic. I wouldn't say toxic. I'd say there's a lot of stressed out people on solo queue, and they kind of take that out on their teammates. I could see that stress level raising through the roof with these sort of expectations in these players' minds, whether realistic or not. I mean, there's going to be people on there who are really thinking that they want to get noticed, and if you're impeding that in any way, you're basically screwing with their potential forward income. I don't know.
It's also, I think, okay, I have to admit that I was at first quite ignorant of what a combine actually is, and probably judged too harshly before. But my understanding now is that a combine is basically where a pool of players, and especially rookies, so rookies in some sense, get judged first and foremost on their stats, and then they sometimes play, exhibition matches against each other. For instance, I think someone told me the NBA does it, where they play 5v5, and
So it's like tryouts.
Yeah, like tryouts, but let's be honest, what stats are actually meaningful in Overwatch?
Accuracy,
maybe.
Yeah.
What even that? Like, it's with some characters you just want to spam, or
Yeah.
Well, I mean, but if you're picking up a McCree or something, accuracy, soldier accuracy.
That's an excellent point. So, like, for an example, Lucio, if you want to look at, like, healing done per match, like, wow, they're top 1% healing done per match, but they're, like, rank 1,500. Because that down in that level, people are getting hurt all the time, and the healing is always happening. So
they actually also not speed boosting, and that's why they're so far up in healing, right?
Yeah.
So then people would, I guess the counter argument would be, okay, you need experts that can contextualize these stats. Not even sure if they can always do that. And then the ladder itself can still be gained majorly with Smurfs and everything. It's not like everyone signs up with their social security number.
It's almost like they need a stats man.
Yeah.
But that's actually something I was gonna bring up earlier. Was, let's say that they make this list of like the top players. Think about like the top 500. How many of those are the same people?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you were just saying, it's not like you sign up, you only get one account. I know that in League there was a player called Wild Turtle, and I think he was like the top couple spots on Challenger in League just because he was that good.
This also has this weird effect. Like, so right currently, like semi-pro teams, they don't go on ladder. They do scrims against other teams of similar rating, and those numbers don't get recorded anywhere. So, is that going to stop that? Is like our scrims just going to die because teams and players are going to want to climb ladder? Is ladder going to be like the thing to go to?
No, they have to make a team ladder. They're going to have to, because if you're stopping people, if it's just like, well, guys, Overwatch is making a league, so the only way to get noticed is to play solo queue, that's stupid.
Oh, you can't even. There's no way of getting noticed by doing scrims in a private match now. So that's like not going to happen anymore, probably.
I mean,
Unless
it's
you win
also,
like a third-party tournament, I guess.
Yeah, right.
if you look at the timeline, it's also quite interesting how it will pan out in terms of, even organizations where you can basically say that they are not going to have, a city slot. Because do you now sign contracts with a new team if you're not certain that you're going to get a city slot?
Yeah.
Like, are you going to sign a year-long contract? Or what's the deal, right? Are these players going to settle down with these contracts? Because that's also, if there's a draft, there's some players that are having that currently are bound by contracts way past the draft date that is given on the site. It's at least for the combine type.
They're gonna have to be bought out if they're that good.
I guess, yeah. But otherwise, you can't force them, right? To be and I guess we haven't even talked about the biggest thing, dude. If I'm Reunited, I'm on suicide watch right now, right? Reunited is a company that is player owned, that built specifically for Overwatch. Just recently has added other teams, and now they're like, "Hey, yo, sup? That thing that you wanted to do with being a big player and player owned, and everyone has equity in the company. Well, you're not getting a city spot, and by the way, third-party tournaments aren't going to be that relevant." But I guess you could just abandon the project you had for the last year, and everyone goes their own way, and you just fucked over your investors because they run on venture capital. Great fucking job, man. Like,
yeah, it really does fuck up people who, like, if let's say that America only gets 10 teams, but there's 15 sponsored teams or organizations, the other 5 teams are just going to have to play in the minor leagues and the third-party tournaments for a while until slots open up. But I mean, I really do think that at least for the first year of this, the third party scene isn't just going to be dead. It's just going to be unpopular. There might not be that much money in it, but
it depends. In my opinion, if the play is probably, for the first year anyway, it's going to be higher on third party tournaments because the teams. I don't know. Well, it's hard to say. Maybe like Envious is both places, but I'm hoping third party still is strong and has strong tournaments. So maybe the viewership will split. Like people on TBS are gonna watch the New Yorkers fight the Brazilians or whatever, while people on Twitch are gonna be watching Envy versus the new Cloud9 or. Maybe that'll be happening.
This is also where the dick measuring starts, right? Because here are established tournament organizers like let's say in the ESL. Okay, that would be less of a problem, but if Face It, all these bigger, maybe a Star Series or whatever, these bigger tournament organizers that run multi-gaming events, so not just one game is played, but several games are played. Yeah. And then you have the OWL. Well, what if those fall onto the same weekend? Can then OWL teams not participate in third-party tournaments? Obviously,
no.
They're not going to allow them. So, and can third-party tournaments work around the OWL? Quite unlikely, I think. Right?
But I mean, you have to draw a line because I mean, obviously Blizzard wants to, because we talked about this before. MLG, this is coming from MLG. Come on. They're not announcing MLG. Blizzard wanted their own thing. But even you look at the logo and all that other bullshit, it's MLG. It's Blizzard taking those ideas and their esports guys, and they're like, we need to create something that's we own, tournament organization, make a regular schedule, LCS, but they're still allowing these other guys. So it's like, well, you either pick. You want Blizzard to go full dictatorship like Riot and go, you're playing our game, we made this, you're going to play on our tournament seasons, and that's it. Or try to organize a little bit better, but ours is the most important.
I want to go back to this Combine thought really quickly. Just a real quick thought. So if I'm a player that wants to be noticed on Combine, I'm probably going to be watching these regional. I'm not going to be watching third party
Yeah.
tournaments just because I'm invested directly in that process, and that itself might just make a pretty decent base hardcore viewership right off the bat.
Yeah. But I mean, that's a good point for viewership wise. I mean, obviously, people who are trying to get into they're trying to get into these teams, so they're watching other people's play and focusing on that. But yeah, um, you have to draw the line. You can't have it both ways. It's Blizzard's game. They don't give a shit if ESL makes money off of them. I mean, obviously, they want them to be promoted and play their game at their tournaments, but if they get this up and running, they could care less about ESL.
Yeah. At the same time, I think they will require, for instance, ESL to maybe help with the organization of the European League in some way. I think that's fair to say that this will happen. Yeah. And then the Americans, probably MLG, and even still some ESL.
They own MLG. I mean, obviously they're going to need help from the European shit, but does MLG have European, or is ESL the MLG of Europe?
Yeah, basically. Yeah, and they even have big offices in the US now. So,
I mean, all this is honestly up in the air. I mean, we could be worried and talking shit about this stuff, and it all goes okay. Obviously, but this is the big question that I have personally, and this has a little bit nothing to do with this. What do you guys know? Because I know you guys talk about StarCraft. What did Blizzard do to StarCraft? Because that's what everyone's comparing this to. This is Blizzard's second attempt at doing some huge, shift in the esports scene. And when it happened in StarCraft, it killed the game.
For me, I have a very personal view on this, so I'm not sure if this is the established opinion. Yeah, but to me, I didn't like watching StarCraft mainly because of the game itself, not because of any management of whatever. And it was mostly because the game matches were decided in a flash of an eye, and it wasn't any interesting counterplay. Well, you have an army, you have another army, and you just kind of jockey around, try to get position, try to cut off. Maybe you can get an edge here and there. But once the army's engaged, the match was decided after that. One person wasn't going to recover, and the other person was just going to dominate. And StarCraft 2 was like that in a lot of ways, but you could still come back, and you could still, when the fight happened, it didn't get decided in a quarter of a second. There was disengage, engage, re-engage, and even more positioning. I don't know. In general, the fights were too fast for me.
But to me, that sounds like a big balance change. Like they changed the game and it died.
Yeah,
it wasn't organization esports type of deal that they changed.
To me, it was the game itself in balance.
Okay.
Okay. So I think a lot of people would actually feel the argument that it was that people couldn't identify or enjoy the personalities of the players that were winning these tournaments, because only recently has the West produced a talent that can, or in a long time, Neeb won, I don't know, some crazy number, almost 10 years of StarCraft, where the last four now won a premier event. And I think that the argument was of many, let's say, community people, was to say, okay, the Faces Koreans are a problem because they're dominating us. We have the WCS for each region, but they're still playing in these WCS. So then they region locked it, which effectively killed the StarCraft community in Korea. And obviously it was a huge uproar that, the guys from our type of thinking, Vulture, was saying, yeah, but now you're not promoting, the best players in the game. You actually want, this tribalism factor. And I can't even, currently the jury is still out on this one. Obviously people will, claim that the numbers for the current BlizzCon final were an indication that this worked. I don't think it really did. It is fucking BlizzCon, and B, both Heroes of the Storm and Overwatch, the stream, were hosting the StarCraft tournament while it was going on. So, and while no action was going on for that. And then obviously you're going to get huge viewership numbers that don't necessarily represent what your attraction of the game actually. So, I mean, there's still the possibility that this all worked out. I'm just not, really seeing the impact just yet. But I'm also not a community insider. And I guess in a sense, this is, where it gets interesting for Blizzard, because if they're in their mind, it is bad to have 6, let's say robots playing your game, and they don't have personality, and they don't have the swagger or whatever you want to call it, and they get hired by your, I don't know, what would it be? Maybe, what's a big team? Like, I don't know, for instance, by the way, I looked it up. The Sixers bought Dignitas. So the Philadelphia 76ers merged with
I looked it up when I didn't want to interrupt, but it was Manchester United and Fnatic were in a bidding war for a team.
Yeah. And what if Dignitas now acquires a 6-man Overwatch team from Korea?
No.
And what if the next guy does it? What if the entire American division now is only Koreans that barely speak the language?
Everyone there,
right? I mean, that region locking is not pants on head retarded. There are merits to the idea in some way, shape, or form, right? So this is still super hard to figure out. I don't think even Blizzard has a clear idea on that yet. I think they're also testing the waters, what the community feels is appropriate. But yeah, it's
interesting that they didn't release more information or publicly in some way, not even in like a video, but even to like teams and be like, hey, this is how that's specifically going to work. Maybe they did, but we're not hearing it. I think that's interesting and kind of gets to your point. Maybe they are testing the waters. They kind of put out this framework and this idea, and then they're going to see what they can tailor from that based on public opinion, based on like region locking or like how drafts work or how long, how the pool, not the pool, the combine works. But so
the thing is,
people should be loud as fuck about this as much as possible to give as much feedback as possible. Right now.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess that should also be our call to action here. But make no mistake, the premise for this league, what it's going to be like, what the nature of this league is going to be like, which we talked about in the beginning of the cast, the philosophy as such, there's no way to change this now. It's decided. No. Right?
Okay, another little blurb that I think maybe I don't know if people skipped over it, but there was a section in one of the videos that said that there's going to be a new website that you can go to, which I'm guessing could just be overwatchleague.com, and you can view players, new people in the scene, teams, how they're doing, excerpts, and interviews and all this other stuff. They're trying to make it like an ESPN, interviewing all the players and doing all this stuff, and you can go view your favorite players and their top plays and things like that. Do you think that's going to get a little bit more, like people are going to be more invested in that, or do you think it's, I guess what are your thoughts on the site?
Well, I don't know. Personally, I'm not going to probably pay attention to it until I know exactly what the league means, I guess, because that's more important to me than like where people rank on it.
I mean, if they make it the hub for stats, like an HLTV.org, fine. If they have the journalistic ideas such as LOL esports does, which are basically, have been in the, kind of, really drinking the Kool-Aid, the corporate Kool-Aid of Riot, I guess some would say, okay, they're maybe really not, feeling the pulse of the game as much or aren't as knowledgeable about the game. But there was a lot of hype for Western teams over the years on LoL esports that wasn't really warranted. Now, they're almost, bullshitting you into believing that, white guys have a chance to win this thing. Even though, to be fair, this year they actually did. But sometimes you have the best, obviously an outstanding Korean player that is like undoubtedly better than the Western equivalent that will not be on the top 10 list, and the Western player will be, for instance. Like, I guess it's about journalistic integrity, and this is where I come back to, the PC culture, as well as, trying to sell a product versus integrity, right? Are you going to sugarcoat in your cast that a certain combination is possibly overpowered, or that a bug occurred, or, that something is being abused in some way? Or are you going to, try to sugarcoat it and not really tell the honest story? Because I certainly enjoy the second variation more, where people are actually honest about their opinions, no matter how controversial, where they actually, provide a solid argument instead of being silenced because it's critical of the product, of the company, whatever, right? Of their peers. Yeah. So,
I mean, obviously, throughout this entire thing, and I even just checked out LoL Esports because I remember that back in the day, but I haven't visited that website in a long time. They're obviously competing with Riot. With this, and you also have to remember that they're supposed to be coming out with this stats thing. Didn't they say it was supposed to be up for Worlds?
Oh, it was.
It was?
Okay, which stats? You mean for the World Cup?
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to watch it.
Oh, yeah. It was on MLG, MLG TV. Yeah, they basically took that was actually quite neat. I don't think too many people watch it on MLG TV, but basically you had the borders around it.
Oh, it's only on MLG TV?
Yes.
Oh.
You have the basically the lineup of both teams in real time. So you see which player is which character right on the right side of the screen, and below you see, and this is where it gets a little bit strange, season stats from competitive play, right? From the solo queue experience. So accuracy, all kinds of different stats, and they flip around. And then you have some social media features where you can share these stats on, Twitter or Facebook or something. But these stats really weren't telling too much. And I wish we could have had, for instance, that Blizzard talk to Captain Planet, and he would feed his stats into these picks. For instance, he has a pick ratio, or how often players pick a specific character. For instance, one stat that is very telling of Tivic's talent is that he has no character that is above 35% of his playtime in competitive play.
Yeah.
Right? He is crazy skilled at many different heroes, and that's nice to illustrate. That can't possibly be shown by, ranked solo queue when these guys are streaming and they're like, and a viewer throws a fiver in and says, play Bastion on Anubis attack, but also unbind your left mouse button and use, I don't know, spacebar instead, right? That's not representative of the actual statistics they use, right?
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Obviously, it's a dry run, and just conceptually, I actually really enjoyed it, and it was a smooth experience. The stream was actually, I think they actually have a better algorithm for Overwatch than Twitch TV. Twitch TV does. Obviously, I might be talking out of my ass, but it felt like there was less, what's it called when the quality is really, mushy and
like a below bit rate. Was it that have a higher bit rate?
Yeah, bit rate, higher bit rate probably, but also the codecs seem to
the encoding of it, yeah.
Yeah, encoding it seemed to accommodate Overwatch much better, and also dealt with the red a lot better. It was a lot easier to read. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me given it's MLG, part of Activision Blizzard.
Do you think they're going to host the Owl on MLG TV strictly?
Also, I can't imagine. Like, to be honest, if Twitch TV doesn't get access to this API and this, what's it called? It's called Eve. Something. It's the abbreviation of the system is Eve. Just the system of having these stats around the screen. That's trademarked by them, and if they want to promote their website, dude, I certainly enjoyed. Like, I don't need to see Twitch chat in order to enjoy my games and tell me when it's awesome, or I mean,
spamming try-hacks emotes or something.
I guess that is part of the culture, though. So I wouldn't mind it. I think it should coexist, basically.
Yeah, you gotta let the memers play.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't. With the OWL, with the Eve system, and all this. I mean, now that they're doing all these other changes in the game too, it feels like it's definitely evolving at this point. And is there even any question? Like, even if everyone hates it, what can you do besides? Are we just gonna kill the game? I mean, you kind of just have to suck it up and be like,
"No,
this is my opinion. Please change this," and hopefully they listen to feedback.
Okay, here's the one positive thing. This basically guarantees Overwatch a sustained amount of success for the next at least 2 years or 3 years to come. And you can some gaming companies have proven that you can force an esport based on investing money into it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's like that just ensures that Overwatch is going to have success in some way, on some level in esports. Now, whether or not it can touch the top 3, I think it's more likely that one will start decaying soon. That interest, lowers in that regard, and then we will see that Overwatch maybe finds this niche. Yeah. Like, okay, CSGO. I don't know how likely that is, because I think the hardcore community for that game is growing. Maybe not general viewership, but I mean, it's the same genre. So, like broad genre of FPS. Yeah. So maybe they steal a couple of views from there. But yeah, in general, I
just think it's more accessible, to be honest. I mean, at least from a playing standpoint, like general just playing, you can run around in Overwatch and fire off abilities and do well. Whereas in CSGO, if you can't fucking aim, you're dead, man. If you don't, you don't know the maps and things. I mean, that's kind of Overwatch too. But it honestly, this might be a far stretch, and correct me here, but Overwatch is kind of like CSGO to the, hardcore Dota community to League. And, Dota might have all this hardcore fan base from back in the day, from the original mod and all this other stuff. Then League of Legends came out of nowhere. They established the LCS, and they're rocking. I mean, #1 period on Twitch all the time, unless there's some huge event going on. And I think it could be the same idea with all of the scandals and stuff going on in the CSGO this year, and Blizzard just steroiding the hell out of Overwatch. They could surpass CSGO.
They could.
I mean, they could. I don't know if that should be a goal. It's more like, okay, Overwatch is not going to die anytime soon. Like this, no. even if it was to shit the bed, this corpse is going to be dragged, behind the tractor for, I don't know, 2 years at the very least, right? And then reanimated repeatedly, and
I don't imagine if they did eclipse another big one game out there. I imagine it wouldn't be from poaching from them. I imagine it would be from growing the esports scene itself through this regional, like, tribal ship type of thing.
Here's one thing that everyone I've talked to that was at BlizzCon told me when they were talking to developers, to business people, to all, Elon Musk was actually at BlizzCon in the Skybox. Jesus. Elon Musk actually said esports is going to be the biggest, sport in the world soon. Obviously you can't cram them together, but anyway, okay, the main idea is that Blizzard is all in on Overwatch, and they think it's going to be a huge success in esports.
What other game do they have? I mean, it's their baby.
I mean, they're trying with the other things, but this is where they are going all out, right?
Yeah.
They're trying with the Heroes of the Storm League, but this is man. Overwatch is now they're invested, right?
Yeah.
Like if this shit doesn't work out, they're losing a shitload of money on it. There's no, they're not kidding around. They're actually going to invest serious bank and effort and really put a lot of confidence in the game that it's going to be. And that's, I mean, in that regard, we can only, feel nice about it as fans of the game. That's awesome in that sense, right?
Yeah. Okay. Was there anything else that we missed in that, the combine, the regional teams, the website, the esports centric website? Was there anything else besides, Crusher being the probably number one name change now?
Yeah.
Not really.
No?
I guess the thing is, I guess if someone made it this far, take it all with a grain of salt. It's only what we've kind of come up with our own conclusions from the information that we've gotten. Maybe we've talked to some people that were actually at BlizzCon. There's also always this where people tell you something in confidence, and you obviously can't tell it to the public, and you have to consider that. And I think all we've said on this podcast is what you could logically conclude with the information that has been, given out on Twitter, on social media, basically. And this is basically, our way to unravel this thing, because it was very, very confusing, I have to say. And I actually felt quite overwhelmed because we've been doing this for a year now. I actually looked at the dates. We should have birthday soon.
Next cast is our birthday.
Oh, is it? Nice. Mm-hmm. It's like I really felt like that almost as my disappointment was really because it felt like a betrayal of what I felt to be the community's interests, especially the competitive Overwatch community. And there's still huge obstacles to overcome, right? Like the announcement of the OWL League was barely front page material on the main sub, right?
Yeah.
This is going to be a huge obstacle to overcome. Right?
My hope is that people are loud and voice a lot of opinions, and people vote in subreddits and on YouTube about videos they like, and there's a lot more feedback on this. Either way, even if it's split, just more feedback, and I hope Blizzard listens to all that feedback and somehow keeps as many people happy as possible. That's my hope. That's up to the community.
Yeah. I mean, obviously they need to make money, but they need to create a scene, because from what it sounds like they're doing right now, I mean, we've said it a couple times right now, or on the podcast, but they are reinventing the wheel, hardcore.
Yeah.
Or they're
trying.
They're taking the wheel. They're taking the existing wheel and they're breeding it with something that's not a wheel. They're breeding it with I don't know, a hammer. You're gonna have a hammer wheel now.
Yeah, and they also did the community was gathered at BlizzCon, who were all clueless this is going to happen, but all these big personalities were treated very, very well by Blizzard there. And they were kind of eased into the information, because this is obviously some players have, for instance, a Too Easy that left college for a year, so took a year pause to play Overwatch, as a profession. They really, try to make it as easy as possible for these people that were there and be really reassuring that this is all going to be for the best. And even though it really looks confusing right now, in the end, it's, you know, it's sort of like, okay, you see how we treat you here. We value you, right? And we want you around when this league happens. We want you to be, you know, the star players as well as the new talent, obviously. And you barely hear anything negative from people that were at BlizzCon about this whole league thing, which makes me, you know, I think there's a bunch of personalities that just wouldn't chill or, you know, take the bullshit if it was bullshit. So this kind of, you know, soothes me into being more optimistic about this when I was very, very, you know, disappointed from it from the start. But then, you know, talking to some people, uncluttering that entire thing, then getting a little bit of feedback, people, you know, communicating that they are obviously also confused and uncertain what the future will bring, but at the same time have confidence that this time Blizzard gets it right.
Hopefully. I mean, that's the biggest thing, is that even starting this cast, I mean, even doing anything with Overwatch, everyone is like, you know, Overwatch is never going to be as big as it is now even. You know, it's just another Blizzard game. They fucked up all their other games eventually. And I'm surprised at where we're at right now. And hopefully this second attempt at pushing this game even further, that this is, I don't know, man, that this is another step that they take, and hopefully they don't, that they did well before. So I have faith. And that's what I said before the cast even, is that there's a lot of reserves and a lot of things that I'm overlooking and hoping that they do well. And that's just in faith, really. Who knows?
Knock on wood.
Yeah. Okay. Is there anything else you guys want to bring up before I wrap it up here? I really don't think there's too much else that we haven't circled around for the past hour or 20 minutes.
Nope.
Okay. So the one thing I would say is, if you guys, like we've said 100 times, if you guys have any comments, any concerns, voice them here, voice them on the post on the Reddit, make your own posts, get people talking. A lot of the main Overwatch people, they don't care. They're talking about Sombra, they're talking about the new maps and all this other stuff. And then when the Owl hits and it's the big thing next year, then people will be talking about it. Then that's when people go, oh, what's this? And it'll be too late. If you have any negatives, any reserves, get people talking, talk to people that, you know, tweet at Blizzard, those type of things. Get your opinions out there. Even if they don't listen for the first couple, if enough people, you know, shout at them a few times, it's gonna get into their head. They're gonna get things that, you know, they realize maybe we'll take a second look at this. But if you just want to talk to us, have the conversation with us, that's super cool too. I just recently went to a convention here, if you've picked that apart from some of the conversations we had, and on our Instagram that I put together, there's a few cosplay things, and I'm going to be posting different arts that I find, or people who make skins and things like that. If that's what you're into, that's super. That's, you know, things that I'm going to be working on the side for our other social media stuff. Other than that, guys, thank you once again, and I hope you guys join us for our birthday cast next week. Sombra should be on the PTR along with some of the other stuff. I don't think all of it. I think some of it's coming early December. But that'll probably be definitely next cast. Other than that, guys, I hope you enjoyed the show, and we'll see you next time. Have a good night.